Everyone else is still out there, okay.
All right, you are live.
All right, we're live. We'll call this meeting to order for the work session. First item on there is the discussion of vacant 3-bedroom rent rates.
Yep, Mayor, if it pleases the council, I talked to Councilwoman Reeves, who, spoke in depth, and I think on the agenda tonight, we have before council to set the unoccupied unit of the request, or her intention for the request for the work session was to discuss those tenants who have historically been in units and what the status of those rates need to be long-term. So with that, I will open it up for discussion, comment, question.
Well, my concern is the tenants that are there now. The 2-bedroom was approved at what, 536? Tonight, we're looking at the 3-bedroom, I think at 671. And, I'm fine with those, because I feel if people move in there, then I guess they're able to pay those rates. But my concern is for the people that are there now. And as it is now, their rent increases $25, I think, every 5 years is what's been out there, which an increase would be due 2022. But my concern is wanting to know how it is everyone feels about that $25 every 5 years. What your thoughts are about it? When Miss Allen was here the last time, she stated that her intentions was as it relates to new tenants, not as it relates to those that are living there now. So my concern is as it relates to those that are living there now. Is it still a matter of where their rate increases at $25 every 5 years? Or what's the thinking on that?
I think when she was here, you're right, I think she did speak to the vacant units, but also about the viability of the project, of the amount of homes that we have going forward with costs rising. I think too, if I'm not mistaken, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, that she was also talking about in the future what we need to do with our units in order for them to continue on the trajectory that we've got now, in the sense of having to feed them more and them not taking care of themselves, being the units generating enough revenue to take care of themselves in the future. I think that was a point that she was trying to make as well. And remind me, what is they signed a 12-month lease at a time?
2 years.
2 years. And what's the comparable rent on a current 3-bedroom?
671.
No.
400.
Yeah, 671 on what she's proposing, not right now.
But
what
what
they've
it
got.
is
Right now.
now.
So
Okay.
400. So just for math, I don't want to come empty-handed. We had, talked one solution. Obviously, not the agreed-upon solution would be a phased-in approach. So I gave you 3 scenarios, and I'll explain how you read that. So the first one, you see the rent, that's $350, that's your 2-bedroom. So you would have to compound annually at 7.25% increase to get to your 531 by year 5. For your 3-bedroom, it would be a 9-year compounded, 9% compounded increase over 5 years to get to your 671, and then for your 4-bedroom, a 10% annual over 5 years to hit your 843. And that's assuming that your fair market value, was stagnant over that period.
Because that can fluctuate down just as well as up, correct?
Correct.
And the numbers you're shooting at is the 80% of the
Right, so the target number on the right is 80% of fair market.
Which is what HUD's guideline is.
Well, that's their
For low to moderate
that's,
income.
that's their calculation for flat rent, right? So the way some of their stuff works with HUD is they set their rent. Now, this might not be 100%, but the way I understand is they set their rent at 30% of their adjusted gross income. But they receive a rental subsidy, a capital improvement subsidy, and an operational subsidy from the federal government for deferring that. So if we moved to some sort of income-based, methodology for projecting rents, just be mindful that there is no subsidy.
Right,
So-
and in HUD houses, they don't pay utilities. People that live in our houses, they pay their own utility bills.
Correct.
Right.
Well, I think they give them a housing credit or utility credit or something.
Not sure, just know they don't
So
pay their
when-
utilities.
And again, Russell, when you say they are getting subsidies, you're talking about the houses currently under the
The housing authority
housing
program.
authority. So let me just ask a question. Would it be best to move these properties under the housing authority? And what would be the effect if we, I mean, what,
I think if you're trying to get into subsidies and all that, you definitely,
That was my question also, why don't we turn this over to the Thompson Housing Authority for the proper and consistent management within the HUD guidelines? Because we could get involved here, our job is public policy. For us to get involved here, we could get involved in selective enforcement, and they would be personally and as a group liable for, discriminating against people. We've already got a housing authority. Why can't we move this, maybe it'll be over a period of time, move all of these houses over to the housing authority for proper management, because they deal with HUD all the time. And then we don't deal with this issue by issue by issue every time a house comes up for rent.
would their rent end up being more or less than?
Probably end up being more under the housing authority.
but if they would get, but maybe they could get
The subsidy.
subsidies that would counteract
But
that.
so, as you say, under the housing authority, are you saying under HUD? Putting them under HUD?
I don't know how that structure would work. I don't know if they would be considered technically housing authority or if it would be some sort of subsidiary of the housing authority that would be managed in a separate means. I don't know how the tenant rents would work.
I know, and I know I'm getting off the subject, but it just occurred to me when you said that and they give subsidies and they don't have to pay utility?
No, they don't. They don't pay their
Yeah,
utilities.
so when you add all those things in, it makes me wonder, might they be better off under the housing authority? But I don't know that.
I don't know that either, but if it's under the housing authority, would it have to be under HUD? It would have to come under HUD. Would it be under HUD if under, well, I guess the management there is under the housing authority.
I
But
think
as it relates to HUD,
I think their general umbrella, because they're recipient, the beneficiary of federal funds, that being the regulatory entity, probably so. They would have to adhere to their guidelines. Now, but I think there's different mechanisms for placing people. I think they have a flat rent structure, and then I think they have some sort of subsidized structure, depending upon the particular situation of the person.
So our people in these houses, unlike the housing authority, are paying a rent and they're paying their utilities on top of that.
Correct.
And that rent is just something that we've set up before, but we're looking at it comparable to the HUD calculation, and in essence 80% of that, to try to be able to say, to make, as we are with the water and sewer system in it, well, the sewer system is subsidizing others, but with the water, trying to basically say, how do we move it towards being able to cover itself on the expenses over time?
Well, sustainability is one factor. The primary focus in looking at it was to not be arbitrary in nature, right? I mean, it was set up at one time there was a basis created. What was that basis, and have we stuck to that basis? And HUD is just an easy basis, right? That's what they do, is housing. They do annual publications. So that's why HUD was picked, to create a basis for setting the rent. Somebody asked me, why are you charging me $350 a month for this cup? Well, because we set it. Well, what was that based on? Well,
When these apartments were built, it happened when it was a community development block grant, and it was under the housing authority. Billy Reeves was over it at that time. So it was under the housing authority. And what it was, there were houses that were in that particular area that were not adequate. I mean, some restrooms were outside, some restrooms on the porch, and they didn't have all the accommodations. So the thing was, these people were moved out of houses into these apartments, and it was considered affordable housing. And that's how that got started, and that's where that came about. And I guess that $25 every 5 years, I guess maybe that's something that was set up years ago. And that's what that's what it has stayed over the years. But I do know that people that live in these apartments are not able to pay $536 a month. That's what it is. HUD is under HUD with the new rates. People that live there, they don't get that kind of money every month. They worked at the Thomason Mills, most of them did, and we know how that was. It was, that was the main employee in the city of Thomason, was Thomason Mills. So that's where most folks worked. So they worked at Thomason Mills, or they did housework, or worked in restaurants or whatever. So these houses these apartments were to the point where people could afford to live in them based on the money they were making at the time. And those that are there, that's what it was, the $25 every 5 years. And I know people that live there now cannot afford to pay $536 for a 2-bedroom apartment. So why is it we're gonna put that situation out there for people to have to try to come up with trying to pay something that they don't even have? I mean, most folks, some of them there get the $741 a month that you get from SSI. So by the time they pay that $350, then I guess they pay their utilities and there's a little money left for food and that kind of thing. But they will not be able to pay this kind of rent. And I don't think that's being fair to the people that live there now, because that wasn't the way it was now. And why the city or Miss Allen, why they coming up with information from HUD, which has nothing to do with the city apartments, I don't think that's being fair to the people that live there now. They will not be cannot afford to pay that kind of money every month. Now you have those rates set now, so if people apply for them, then I'm assuming they're able to pay it. If it really set at $671 for a 3-bedroom, so if one applies for that, then I guess they can afford to pay the $671. But those that are living there now cannot afford to pay that kind of money. They don't get that kind of money every month. Most of them are retired. Like I said, they own fixed incomes. And some get SSI, a lot of them are elderly people, and they get, that's that $771 or whatever it is a month. And that's what a lot of them get. So I don't think it's fair to them to put them in that situation to where the point they would need to try to pay $536 a month for a 2-bedroom. They cannot afford it. So why is it we're gonna put that out there for them to try to have to pay that? That's being totally unfair to those people.
So the flip side would be, if you use historical turnover is the metric for bringing the rents up to the chained 80% of fair market, and say we have 1-2 vacancies every 15-20 years. If you're chained to the 25% every 5 years based on the sustainability plan for the unit, if your rents don't move to match the sustainability, are you willing to subsidize the program with the general fund? If the answer is yes, then that's fine.
But have we had the general fund had to contribute to
No.
that, to sustain that?
No, they
Because
haven't.
in the past, that community development fund has done things with other projects over in that area.
Right.
And has contributed for other things. So the city has never had to subsidize that program
No,
as of today.
They haven't.
No, they haven't.
That was based on, the recommendation from the housing manager.
Right, but then the housing manager, she works under HUD. The complex that she manages is under HUD. They don't, like I said, HUD pays a certain percent of their rent. I talked to a lady that has a 2-bedroom out there. She pays $250. So I guess HUD will pay the difference in the 250 and the 536. So I guess that's how that would work. Because Miss Allen did say her 2 bedrooms are $536. So I guess HUD pays that difference. But these folks down here, they don't have that. They don't have HUD to subsidize them paying their rent. And why all of a sudden we want to come up and put these people in that position, I don't understand it. Like I said, if it was to the point where the city was having to put money into that program, maybe that's a different story, but that hasn't happened. And every year, the city makes a little money from it. Right now, one set of those apartments has been there since 1982. And right now, we're going back now and that's where we're gonna put new cabinets in those apartments. It's three units. And we're gonna put new cabinets in those apartments. I think the total is like $72,000. And the money is available to do that. And the city is not having to put any of that money there. Now, if a time comes where the city has to put money in there to help sustain, then that's a different story. But as we speak then no work has been done. Nothing has been done to those apartments. The floors never been done. The cabinets, everything that when they moved in them back in '82, that's what's there now. They have not had any upgrades to them, period. And now how is it we gonna go and try to charge them $536, I guess, over a period of time when nothing has been done to them? Out there where Allen is, HUD keeps those up there right now, renovating those apartments out there. They did these out here at Lincoln Park. They put new flooring, new kitchen sinks and the stoves and refrigerators, new flooring and all such as that. HUD has done that for those apartments. But these apartments down there, nothing has been done to them whatsoever. We did the air conditioning units a couple of years back. That was an upgrade. But then other than that, nothing has been done, period. The same flooring is in there that was in there when folks moved in there in 1982. So how is it we can sit back and say we want to try to increase their rent to this when nothing has been done for the apartments? And I think that is totally unfair to the folks that live down there. But you do what you do.
Sounds like that we may be doing the people a disservice by not trying to figure out how to give it to HUD. It sounds like that
That's
what
what I
they're
was
doing
wondering
is,
if-
as you were talking,
Yeah.
If we could get those on HUD and
sounds like would be a better deal. Negotiate some kind of pilot.
Well,
You know, we-
so
But see,
maybe
you
we
looking
should,
at it from that standpoint, and maybe, because I mean, I guess maybe you're just wanting to, I mean, what is it, not producing enough money?
No,
What
it's
is
nothing
it?
to do. No,
So-
it's just
so
what
what
you
is
just. I just said with what you were just alluding to, with all the renovation work, all the things that they're doing, they're paying. The example that you used with the lady that's over in Miss Allen's
Yeah.
complex is paying
Mhm.
$200 a
Yeah,
month.
that's what she told
Compared
me.
to what are they paying here?
Right, 536
Okay,
for
so
a 2-bedroom.
that's the
But
point
that-
I'm trying
but
to
if it
make.
goes, if it goes under, if you put it under HUD, then you're saying, that I guess they would get the assistance.
I don't
or
know. That's
whatever.
what I'm saying is explore.
And I guess, like I said, I guess it's just a thing whereby you think they're not paying enough
It-
money,
you're-
they're
you're
not
not
doing
understanding
this.
what I'm saying.
Yes, I do understand
No.
exactly what
No, I
you're
don't
saying.
think so.
And the thing is, you feel that it should increase the rent. But those people have lived there all these years and have paid that amount of money. So maybe if they can't afford it, maybe if it goes under HUD, because some of the people out there at Triune Village under HUD, some of them pay $750, $800 a month, depending on how many people live in the houses. So that wouldn't be to their benefit to move it under HUD. I mean, if the program is working, the city is not putting anything into it, it's taking care of itself, so why bother? Leave those folks alone, they can't pay that kind of money.
well, look, Keith, one thought that I think we're all trying to do is how to move towards maybe a better situation for those people.
Right.
And if possible, because it was mentioned, that the Housing Authority is renovating a lot of those units.
Yes, they are.
What the discussion here is how to make the program sustainable over time. And then I guess the only question I would say is, should we look at what would be the pros and the cons? And I know you've got a large knowledge about what's going on out there.
Yes, I do. I lived over there for years. Before I left from over there to go to college, I lived right over in that area.
And
I did.
my situation is, would it be worth looking at?
I don't think so, but you'll do whatever you feel you need to do. I think, like I said, I think it's totally unfair to the people that are there and have lived there all those years to come up and try to come up with all this money. It's sustaining itself. The city's not putting a dime into it.
But
So
we're,
why
but
is
we're
it
all,
you
but we're
want?
not putting a dime in, but we're not fixing it up either.
No, well, maybe that's something you need to consider.
So that's
Maybe
the
you
thing,
ought
we-
to try to fix them up.
If,
I mean,
but if
now
we,
you're looking
if we
at
spend,
putting
if we spend a lot of money putting in, then we'll be,
You know, you
on
look
the
at
ball-
what
on
it
the-
brings in every year and see what you put out every
But you
year.
would fix them up if you would raise the rent, I'm sure, right? That's what,
well,
I don't see how you couldn't.
that's what I'm saying, yeah.
right.
What fix them up? What have they done over there? They still there. Those that were there in 1982, folks moved in 82. It's the same way it was when they moved in, and nothing has been done to them.
Well, that's where you're trying to figure out how to make it better.
Is it make it better by us going up or giving it to-
In some of them, you put
Give it to the housing
central
authority and
heating
let
air
them
in them 2 years
look at the
ago.
program. They know
ain't
how to
put-
do it.
Put cabinets in it, and just
They'll
take
bring
that
it
time
up
and
to-
money and put
to
something
better
in it and
stuff.
fix them up.
And
And leave those folks alone. They can't afford to pay that money.
Lakeith, I think we're sympathetic to your
Now,
argument.
well, I mean, I don't, I mean, you know, hey, don't know. All right, just treat people fairly. Just consider those people out there, the amount of their income and the fact that they're not able to pay that kind of money.
But
Don't
if
work
they don't
as
have
hard
that
as
money
we
to
sit
pay it,
there.
then I think they would qualify on this HUD stuff for lower rent. So I think they could, which I think, like I said, we're not gonna make this decision to move all of that tonight. I think you
No.
look into it and see, and say, hey, if, you know, these are the people, could they qualify for your HUD homes? If somehow to give them the first right of, I don't know if that's the way to do it. Again,
Like
you
I
have to
said,
find
I
out.
look at it.
And if they look at it, if you could give it to the housing authority, they could bring it up to nicer living conditions with new stuff in it. And then, yeah, it may be a 536 rent, but by going through their program, those people are paying what they're paying now. And they they still getting what they're paying now, and they getting a nice house, a nicer house with newer stuff.
Well, thank you.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I think it's worth
That's
exploring.
all we're-
Fine, well and good. Like I said, those people have been there all those years, they're not able to pay that kind of money. And for you to come up and say they need to try to come up to the point to pay $536 for a 2-bedroom, they can't afford it. So do what you do.
Well, I
And I
know right
guess
now,
they're
there's a
living.
lady that, live in one of the apartments down there that in need of a refrigerator. And she called me the other day and told me that, I think Mr. Allen was out of town, but one of the maintenance guys came down there and said that they can't get a refrigerator probably within 2 weeks. And if they order it, it's probably gonna take a month for her to get one in. I don't know if she contacted you or not. Ms.
Yeah, I
Reed.
talked to Fernanda, and she
Yeah.
does, she hadn't got no refrigerator.
Okay.
But the thing is, they had called and talked to her and told her that the new refrigerator was in
Mhm.
and that they were bringing it out. But come to find out, the refrigerator was not in yet.
Mhm.
So I guess it came in a day or two later, but as of today, the lady they have delivered her new refrigerator. So yeah, now and whatever. Like I said, do what you do, whatever it is you think is best for the city as it relates to that, then that's what you do.
I think that's what we're trying to figure out.
But tonight, we're simply talking about that
That
one.
one rate
Yes.
is empty. Put that price and see if it gets it. Like we
Right.
did on the other one, boom, it got rented out. Somebody could afford it. That's good.
Right, and like I said, I think that's too much for that, but if you all voted in, you voted in. If people apply knowing it's $671,
Right,
so if they apply for it, so I guess then they'll be able to pay it, so that's.
Our
but
concern,
my
our
concern
further
is those
concern is the ones that are in there now.
Right,
What
that's
can
my
we make
concern.
that place better
Right.
for them to live? Is that us doing something, or is it exploring through the housing authority, to allowing them to come look at it and say, we can do this, and they'll probably get, yeah, it'll be a 3-bedroom will be
But
$671.
it's not gonna be 671, it's gonna be 536, right?
That's a 2-bedroom.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
536. Right.
So
A
if we had that,
Three
bedroom,
bedrooms.
three
but
bedrooms tonight,
but if
$671.
it's in a HUD thing, those people who let's say they can't afford this, that would had their income examined and probably adjusted down.
So, but what is the city, what harm is it doing with the city on it? And them paying the city what they pay? I mean, they pay that and they pay
Because
that.
if we're bringing in
rent.
$350
Each
on these
year-
houses, but if this way, it brings in $350 and they're subsidized through the federal government stuff, and that's helping out. It's not the city taxpayer helping fix it up.
I think, Lakeith, I think what all you're saying is that should we investigate the HUD situation to see, would it be a quicker way to have the quality of the unit brought up and their rent not be too much imposed because they're going to begin getting subsidies over there. And I think we ought to at least investigate what it might look like to see, could this put them in a better position? Because I think where your passion is, Lakeitha, is your passion is for those people who live there, you want them to live affordably in as nice a unit as they can. And I think that's what we're all trying, that's what this whole thought process is about. How do we do it and not to put too much of a burden on those people? How do we do that, and how can we give them as nice a place as we can? Because I understand what you're saying. Those people have a lower income, and you know, we want to try to do what we can and not put too much a burden on it, but yet make the program sustainable. If HUD potentially makes it more sustainable with a nicer unit and very little more burden or no burden at all on them, wouldn't we want that?
As I said, do what you do. Explain how I feel about it. So do whatever it is you feel you need to do.
I don't see where it would hurt looking into that. I don't see that, you know, it may look at it and say, yeah, and it may go, no, that won't work. And I think we're all open to look at listening and see.
Because I think if somebody, to your point, if somebody makes 700, whatever the 700 and some odd dollars SSI, you're saying that's below to moderate. That's almost at the poverty line by HUD's definition. And I think there's a caveat in that probably gets them into the unit over at the other property that was $200 and something for a 3-bedroom unit. In a nicer unit. And Russell, I don't know what the arithmetic looks like, but could we, with what we're doing now, could we afford to do the level of renovations to our units that they're doing currently over there at Ms. Patricia Allen's other project units, housing?
You know, I think we're somewhere between 80 and 90,000 a year, and probably not. I mean, you look at just cabinets and what was it, 6 units? I think it was like $72,000.
Nine total units.
9 total.
So you start bringing in the floors and roofs and getting all that.
It'd be hard. You'd have to go out for some funding or bond it and pay it back.
Is that something council would like to see, a study or some kind of,
It would.
if it's feasible, if it's not feasible, or?
I think it'd be interesting to see all we're about is let's see information about, and I'm totally sympathetic to the argument, those people are low income. And the argument that Lakeitha is making is a very valid argument. But it would be interesting to see, would it be possible to improve their living condition and not put more burden on them because it's under a HUD program? But I mean, I just don't have enough information to know that.
I think, I'd like to know more information. I'd like to know more information if that's, would it make it quicker, easier? I mean,
It's
then
out
people-
there, man.
and then people still could do what they need
Like I
to
said,
do.
I wanted to hear how you all felt about it. It's out there. I've heard phase this in, phase that in, so I wanted to bring it in. I wanted you to tell me how you feel about it. So, like I said, do what you do.
Yeah, the purpose of the content, my question was, I want everybody to win. I want a win-win situation for everyone involved, the city, the residents, and also, you know, with the Thompson Housing Authority. You know, what works best? Let's do a study, feasibility study so we can understand, what the true numbers are, and then we'd be better able to make a decision.
I think their board would like to weigh in on, I would think they would want
Right.
to weigh on whether they want to do that. They may say, no, it's too much for us, or they wouldn't be interested in doing it. I think all those avenues you talk to, study, figure out if it can be done, come back to us and say, this is what we found out.
Russell, just as a simple understanding of this, when they go out and measure these comparable rents, where is that being measured from? I mean, is that, it says that it is in both urban and,
Well, this is
Probably countywide.
this is specific for Upson County.
yeah, okay.
So it's looking at city, county.
There's a publication like this for every county in
Yeah,
Georgia.
gotcha. All right.
So,
Yeah. Frankly, personally, I don't see if you can find something that gives them a better, a nicer unit at a lesser cost to them, potentially, how is that a bad thing?
makes perfect sense to me.
I mean, if that's what we're all, if that's the consensus of the group, which I don't see anybody that's saying it's not.
I mean, I would agree. I mean, I think we all want to have the best possible conditions for a very affordable price for them.
Do we need to make a
Because they
motion
are.
before you do that? You want to make this formally in a motion to do a study to examine these things and the
Just to
possibilities,
understand it better.
to understand
I
the
think
thing?
that's the first step, is to get the information to understand it better.
Do we technically need a motion for that, or is it,
Probably not. I mean, I can bring you back some.
maybe have another work session to go over some of that once we get the
Yeah.
thing?
And I'd like to know what they are doing over there at the other place that Miss Patricia manages, as far as renovations. What are they doing? I mean, is it feasible? How feasible is it for us to do if nothing happened? How would we do that? Could we do that? What would it take to do that? I mean, I just think it's an information gathering thing at worst. I mean, I think just trying to understand what's out there is,
They're in that business every day.
yeah.
Fairview, was that the last apartment complex? Is that the one being rehabbed? I think that was
No, the
a,
ones at Triton Village are the ones that are looking at rehab. Well, Fairview is not under the housing authority.
right, but that complex renovation, I think, was permitted at 6.5.
That's the one that's
Fairview?
bonded on or whatever.
Yeah, that's not under the housing authority.
Is that the one across the street from the schools there on?
Yeah, that's
Back
next to
where
the
Kempton-
Harvey View Nursing Home. Next to
Yeah.
it, Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, is there anything else we need discussion
No, sir.
But we're gonna vote tonight
on the vacant?
Just
unit?
the vacant.
on the 3-bedroom vacant unit, and are we all feel?
To at least put it out there for that
I mean, if
rate.
they know
and
what
see.
they are going into, and if it
If
doesn't,
it doesn't rent, we reconsider the rate then, I guess. Last one rented the next day, I think.
did it?
Yeah, but she had already gotten that apartment. And her father was at that meeting, so I guess he was here to see what was gonna be done.
If there's any other business to hear a motion to adjourn the work session,
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
second. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Turn off
You want a drink?
Get water. Get water.
What do you want?
Water? You want out? Water?